We'll open the floor for questions. I have already put up a timer, so we know that we are on track, right? So the question, is L&D teams today really equipped to lead what the previous panel also spoke about, skills development in a rapidly changing world, specifically in the context of AI and the dynamic changes that are happening? The floor is open. Keep your responses short. And if there is any case study that you have from your organization or past organization, I'm sure the audience members would love to hear it. The floor is open. Who goes first? Lady with the mic, Snelata.
Thank you. So again, a good morning to everyone. And first of all, thanks IBC for having this platform to share the knowledge with all of you here. So the question what you asked, it's very important. Like, are we equipped? L&D, learning and development. So the first I would say we are evolving. Okay, and it's not just one L&D as a function, any support function or any function or domain for that matter. We are ever evolving. We have to, right? Survival of the fittest. Now, the second thing is, are we equipped? So there are various factors, which are like based on our this one. So one first important is the rise of AI. We have been hearing, AI, the rise of AI, first thing. Second important is the byte learning. So first important thing, like, from one day, entire day of learning, we have come down to the byte learning, so that instant thing. We need it quickly, short and sweet, and at the most optimized about it. So that is the second one. And third important, that very important thing is, apart from just technical focus, the industries are, giving focused on the soft skills as well. That is important because it is important for the holistic development. So learning and development is not just like one skill set. So people are, or the organization are, understanding the importance of the soft skills and they are imbibing in it. So these are some areas where, as a L&D we are developing, and that helps to evolve faster. But then yes, there are certain areas which will need, a certain more attention. One is the impact. How do we connect the impact with the organization goal? Everything boils down to the business. Business hai to hum hai, right? For any function. And second is the engagement during the learning. So how impactful are we to keep our audience engaged? Like we see today, the turnouts, okay, not up to the mark because maybe they were expecting the virtual learning again. So that is one of the example we can see here. And third important, the shift from just not the content delivery, we have to think on the this competency building. So these are the certain things which I think will definitely help us to evolve faster. And that's how we can be equipped. AI is definitely one. Our thought process, the change from just content delivery to the this competency building. This will help us to evolve faster and equip.
Thank you so much for that, Snehila. And she spoke about, are we looking at impact? And I think that's where we need ACP Daya to say, pata karo impact hua ki nahi hua, right? And one suggestion that I have is, we need to start using words also differently. The moment we call anyone as an audience, it automatically becomes a one-way process. Can we call it as a participant? Maybe that could change. Who wants to go next? Namita.
So maybe I can add to what she has already set the context on. I think we have wealth of experience for each L&D professional sitting out here. The thing is that our participants are changing. We have a lot of Gen Z that we are hiring on a constant basis. Their learning requirements are way too different than the ones that we used to have. So the millennials and the baby bloomers had very typical way of learning, wherein the Gen Z is very different in terms of learning. So we need to mesh around our current participants and the participants, they are there with us for the longest time, those who are more experienced. So understand your learning needs first. Secondly, tech is only one part of it. We need to create the experiential learning, whether we use tech, whether we use tools, whether we use our own way of building skill set. There are different methodology, and I'm sure each one of you come with wealth of experience to implement that. But are we really delivering what our participants can absorb? That's first question. Secondly, where are we moving from skill set to competence? That journey is very important, because gone are those days when in factory, I remember when I started my career, the way we used to do the quality check and training, and the way now the bite-sized learning, there are different apps, there are different ways of communication, there are different ways of absorption of learning and checking whether they have understood the entire phenomenon of assessment center, development center. It has changed. Being into pharmaceutical, I can tell you one thing, that our entire fabric of learning is changing, and because of that, we need to be equipped with what is the change, how are we going to make life easier for others using the technology and not just depending on the technology. I think ultimately it's human, and the human way of dealing with it and making it as an experiential learning is going to be the way of life ahead.
Thank you, Namita, and well said. You know, it's very easy to write a book on how to swim, but unless you take that dip yourself, you cannot call yourself a swimming instructor. And Ranchod Das Chachad had said it very clearly. Kabiliyat, right? That's what we need to focus on. Mark, your views on it.
Thank you. For me, the question is around L&D departments, L&D professionals, and are we equipped to respond to the current learning environment need? And one of the things I see is that we need to get better at is speed of response. Yeah, because one of the things that I've seen is that the business identifies a learning requirement and they give it to L&D, and L&D goes away and they develop a learning framework and they find a provider and they go through the procurement process, and 4 months later we will have the course and the need has moved on. Yeah?
Absolutely.
And so as L&D departments, we need to be prepared to instantly respond to a demand that the business requires. And that requires being prepared and having the potential responses already ready in our rucksack. Yeah, saying, here's one we prepared earlier. Yeah, go with this. And that can be a lot of work, a lot of preparatory work, a lot of background work, but also the relevance question, yeah, is L&D as a profession remain relevant? And I think it does, because as an L&D professional, we are equipped to provide that professional advice, that professional consultancy for the learning requirement. And the example I gave, I wouldn't trust an accountant to build a bridge, but I wouldn't trust my bridge engineer to run my accountants. Yeah, and so as an L&D professional, we need to be adding value to the learning and development process and the learning and development outcomes for, at the end, our organization and the organizational outcomes.
Thank you so much, Mark, and very rightly put, it's about on-demand service, right? Dr. Trivedi was speaking about MRs, and in the good old days, if you remember, sir, there used to be those manual flip charts which people used to carry. Visual aids. And today, my father used to be an MR long ago. And I would be, surprised at the way he would practice at home, saying, "हाँ doctor, अगर उसने 2 minute दिया तो क्या बोलना है, 5 minute दिया है तो कौन सा slide दिखाना? What do I share when I have that time?" And depending upon the demand, it would change. And that's what has been captured beautifully. Thanks, Mark, for that. Yes, Manoj.
Morning. From my point of view, I think how I see L&D is, one is most of the L&D happens outside HR. Okay, so it is to be recognized as that. Now, from HR perspective, the only role you have, which could be a sustainable role, is to enable and facilitate powerfully. Now, enable and facilitation are not a very low-hanging fruits. You can enable at a different level. You can facilitate at a different level, in terms of maturing the learning curve, from nascent stage to a best in class. I can bring those mediums, I can bring those programs, I can bring those trainers. But the real, happening is outside the HR. We need to really recognize that. Number 2 is, fundamentally, HR departments are in the business of only two things: developing people and keeping them motivated. These are the two things. Rest all are transactions. All are transactions, to support these two foundational objectives. So for developing people it has a various coordinates, we call it functional, systemic, and digital, and leadership oriented or behavioral oriented. You can dissect and do many, aspects of it. But at the end of the day, the role remains facilitation. Now, how we can make what is there under our control to make the organization future ready? What we are doing is to, impacting people is to make them future ready. Now, in order to make them future ready, you have to have a bigger say in the scheme of various HR strategic interventions. That say is very important. And that say can happen if you really create that ecosystem wherein, the line managers or your so-called executive council is having one agenda, which is the common agenda of developing people continuously. I have seen this very closely personally in my life, and secondly, all throughout my career, last 30 years professionally, and balanced 25 years personally. I was born in manufacturing, and since then I'm in manufacturing last 55 years. I was born in BHL, raised in BHL, been with BHL kids, all throughout manufacturing, and my first job was with Grasim Industries, and now with all throughout in manufacturing. Now the point which I'm trying to bring in, we have a huge responsibility to impact people. Especially, I have seen closely manufacturing, I can talk about manufacturing. I have no appreciation and idea what happens in service. Okay, and I don't want to really venture into that. What I am equipped is, these people who comes to manufacturing, they are very ordinary set of people. Very simple, authentic, ordinary set of people. If you create a right platform for them, I think the adoption is phenomenally high. And I have seen the adoption